New endometriosis symptoms strike again. My immune system has gone completely haywire. I've been unwell for the past 4 weeks, and not in the way that one would traditionally expect with endometriosis. My immune system, which we all now know is at the heart of endometriosis, has been majorly triggered. It seems on several fronts. Now that I'm starting to feel normal again, I wanted to share this recent experience with you, as you might relate, and if so, I'd love to hear your stories. So it all started 4 weeks ago when I caught some sort of infection. Was it viral? Was it bacterial? I don't know. Was it flu? Was it COVID? I honestly couldn't tell you. What I know is that for 2.5 weeks, I went through the following, which will all sound very familiar: sore throat, congestion, and a dry chesty cough, which I still have to this day. So as I'm fighting off this infection, I'm now 2 days pre-period, and I start to experience the following: racing mind and racing heart. My mind and body are working faster than usual. It's like I'm going through the motions, but I'm not all there in the head. I don't feel like myself at all. Now, I'm used to feeling a little bit off pre-period, but it usually stops the second I bleed. But what do you know? My period arrives and my body goes into haywire. Heart palpitations, my anxiety is through the roof, high blood pressure, headaches, dizziness, and chills. I don't feel coherent at all. I don't feel safe in my body. I can't think straight. I can barely eat. And I'm up for hours at night waiting for my mind and heart to settle so I can get a few hours of sleep. Obviously waking up exhausted the next day only to repeat it all over again. This went on for 2 weeks. On a positive note, I barely felt any of my usual endo symptoms. I'm talking this was the best period of my life ever. I didn't even know my period had arrived. That's how blasé it was. But instead, my immune system had been majorly triggered and I was in constant fight or flight mode. For those who have experienced panic attacks or have an anxious predisposition, you know just how debilitating it is. So that was a first, and I hope a last. I did go to see my doctor. My white blood cell counts, so immune system and infection markers, were high, indicating inflammation. Of course, my GP said, that's normal. Because I'd had an infection 4 weeks prior, it was normal in his opinion for my inflammation markers to be high. But why would an infection lead to such a dysfunctional immune and nervous system response, where I ended up experiencing things like severe anxiety? So I decided to do some digging on my own, as I do. And I think I may have come across the culprit. Histamine. Histamine is released by the immune system in response to infection to help fight off things like virus and bacteria. High histamine, histamine intolerance, or an overreaction to histamine can cause the following symptoms. Are you ready for this? Anxiety, heart palpitations, headaches, dizziness, vertigo, changes in blood pressure, inability to control body temperature. Sounds quite familiar. The infection trigger aside, I had been gradually increasing my intake of high histamine foods. On top of all that, I've been learning that having problems with processing high levels of histamine has been linked to endometriosis. So when we say that endometriosis is rooted in immune system dysfunction, it can apply on so many levels that most of us aren't even aware of, and our doctors seem to be none the wiser themselves. To help manage myself out of this health episode, besides taking my doctor's advice, which was stop worrying so much, I worked on reducing my histamine levels and inflammation. And thankfully, I seem to have succeeded. I don't know if anything shared today was helpful. If anything has resonated, please let me know in the comments.